Let's talk about counting protons, electrons, and neutrons. On the periodic table of elements, it gives us the atomic number. And as we learned in class, that is the amount of protons in the element. So since the atomic number of iron is 26, that means it has 26 protons. Now, if the element is not an ion, we know that it has the same amount of electrons as it does protons. So if it has 26 protons, we could then realize that it has 26 electrons as well. So we can see that counting electrons and protons is very simple. Counting neutrons is a little bit trickier, but thankfully there is a simple formula that we can use. The number of neutrons equals the mass number minus the atomic number. Now we already know that the atomic number of iron is 26, so let's write that down. 26, and in order to find the mass number, we once again turn to the periodic table. The mass number is right here, 55.85. So let's fill that in. Now 55.85 minus 26 equals 29.85. Let's write that down, 29.85. Now we have to remember that when we subtract, we need to keep it at the lowest decimal place. So this rounding up equals 30. And now we know that the number of neutrons equals 30. Now if we have some isotopes, which means they have different amounts of neutrons, we can still find the neutrons the same way. Let's look at 3 isotopes of carbon. Now all these little numbers are the mass numbers for these different isotopes. So if the mass number is 12, we know that the atomic number for carbon is 6. So all we have to do is 12 minus 6, and we get 6 for the number of neutrons. Let's bring this one down here, do the same thing. 13 minus 6 equals 7. And that is how you find the number of neutrons in isotopes. Now there's a few main things we need to remember when counting electrons, protons, and neutrons. The first is how to read the periodic table of elements. We know that this top number is the atomic number, which is the number of protons and therefore the same number of electrons. And then we also need to know what this number is, which is the mass number. Once we know those two things, we can then solve for the number of neutrons by subtracting the atomic number from the mass number.